to CCTV's own LARP Aesthetics, the panel dedicated to the stunning aesthetics of live action roleplay. I'm your host, CCTV's Nick, and today I am joined by some very special and talented guests who specialize in the visual and tactile elements that bring LARP worlds to life. Together, we're going to delve into the craftsmanship behind elaborate costumes, the creation of immersive props, and the design of breathtaking effects and scenery. Whether you're a seasoned LARPer or just curious about the artistry involved, we're so glad that you're here with us today at Con Carolinas as we're going to explore the creativity and dedication that transforms fantasy and reality. So, without further ado, let's go around and have our guests introduce themselves to the panel. Guests, tell us first and foremost who you are, how long you've been LARPing, and the last one, if budget wasn't a factor, what would your dream cosplay be? And starting in no particular order, Dax, why don't you go ahead and start us off?
Hi, I'm Dax. I've been LARPing for 15 years, and I had my dream cosplay. Okay, so it's kind of a niche dream cosplay, but the character's name is Kalia the Vast from Magic the Gathering. She's like an angel demon dragon combo, and she's my wife. She just doesn't know it.
And familiar with the character, I am so tempted to derail this entire thing and just start talking about Modern Horizons 3 hype, but I'm gonna keep it professional. Alright, next down the line, in no particular order, Courtney.
Hi, my name is Courtney. I have been LARPing for 2.5 years, and I probably think my ultimate cosplay, if budget was not a thing, would probably be Garuda from Final Fantasy XIV. I know, she's awesome. Just the wings and all this stuff, it's a lot. I'm still gonna try and do it.
Alright, next up down the line, Katie.
Screen for a second.
Hi, I'm Katie. I've been LARPing for 3 years, I want to say.
Longer than that.
4 years?
COVID took a whole big chunk out of it.
Yeah. So, probably about 4 years. And gosh, my dream cosplay would probably be something from Baldur's Gate. Probably Char.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Wow. It's elaborate. And last but not least, Samuel.
Hey, I'm Sam. I guess what, since 2019, 2018, been LARPing. Like, COVID took out a big chunk of it, obviously. But, my gosh, dream cosplay. I don't know. Something with big plate mail, probably. Because plate mail's expensive. I want to buy more of it, but I can't.
Valid.
So mine would be Iron Man. I'm like, I know that an Iron Man kit that looks so good is like either $3,000 or a lot of time and energy. Alright, well, we're not talking about cosplay, although it is kind of involved in what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to focus on talking about LARP aesthetics. We're going to kind of delve into what it takes to physically represent what the imagination can muster. And so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Panelists, I'm going to ask the question in general to everybody, and then you just jump in and answer whenever you feel comfortable, okay? In no particular order. So first question, what got you into developing props and costuming for LARP? Where and how did you learn your awesome costume prop making skills?
Cosplay. I know me and Sam were cosplayers before we decided to LARP, so it was a big thing.
Yeah, I've been making costumes for like 10, 15 years now. So our first LARP I actually wore my Vaxilana cosplay there because I didn't know if I was gonna like it or not, and I already had something that like fit the genre. And now I make stuff a lot more.
So for me, I have raging ADHD, which means I have 3 billion hobbies. And LARP conveniently combined all of those into something where they became relevant. So for me, it was just, I learned to do a lot of random different things. So I'm like, oh, these are useful now. So yeah.
Mine would actually be like when I was a child, my parents were in theater, and my father was like a stage actor, and my mother did a lot of like prop making and set design and stuff like that. So it just kind of like made sense.
Awesome. Thank you. So, with LARP, I mean, we all are LARPers. We've done it for years and years and years. And it is an amazing hobby. It's an incredible hobby, and it would be wonderful to grow the hobby. But one of the obstacles to getting involved in LARP is this notion that you have to have a lot of money to pay for expensive costuming. You have to look, dress to the nines, game one. So let's try today to dispel some of these misconceptions while also talking about some practical things that people should do in order to intermix into LARP what they should really expect. So first question, what should a person do to prepare before coming to their first LARP game?
I would say the biggest first thing for me is buying a good pair of shoes, because you're going to be walking around a lot. That's my big thing. A good pair of shoes can make or break your event.
Shoes with a good tread on them.
Yeah.
I've definitely busted my knees on concrete before, and I would not recommend it again.
Yeah.
And then a lot of things you can get at the thrift store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. You can save a lot of money by repurposing stuff that you already have too. My first LARP character was a hood that I ripped off of a hoodie, and I cut it into like a V shape, so it looked like a hood, and then a sweater.
And I'm not sure what other LARPs do, but Vanguard LARP, the LARP that Courtney and I are plot team members for, we have new player liaisons who can actually source clothing that new players can either borrow or that they can buy that isn't expensive, so that they'll have something to wear. Especially if you're not sure you're gonna like it or not. It's nice to not have to spend a bunch of money on a hobby that you don't know if you're gonna like it.
Yeah.
I think repurposing things is really huge, and your kid does not have to be perfect when you're starting out. It's something where we were talking about it earlier in a panel. You're gonna get adopted. If you go to LARP, you're gonna get adopted most likely by a group, and then suddenly you're like, oh, you want to play this kind of character? I actually have this thing that you could have, and this thing. We have a lot of stuff when you've done it for a while. It takes over.
Too much stuff.
It takes over. But your kid does not have to be super fancy. Things can be repurposed. They're cheap. Fast fashion, I'm not a fan of it normally, but I took a $5 dress and repurposed it literally last night for this costume, just to show that you don't have to do something super expensive to make a really nice costume if you have a couple good pieces that you make or get.
Yeah.
So.
And I want to delve into this a little bit more, this idea, because I see this all the time with people that come to LARP. They think, oh, well, there's these people in here with $1,000 costumes. How on earth can I compete with that? How can I see myself in this hobby? So what are some other tips we can give for LARPers to work with a limited budget? How do you put together an awesome kit while also being wallet conscious and making sure that you don't end up breaking the bank?
One of my favorite kits came from just pieces I found from the thrift store. We have a really good thrift store by our house, so
Yeah, we got a lot of fabric in the thrift store.
a lot of fabric. Almost every week, and it might take time, but if you go every single week and you find something cool, you just throw it into a kit after a few months.
Yeah, a lot of LARPers will swear by thrift stores, repurpose. It's great because especially if you're making your character, it's gonna evolve. So you start out with your baby kit. Like I said, I started out with a hood, and a sweater, and a pair of baggy pants. But your kit is gonna evolve. You'll find more thrift stores and travel. I've had a team of when I was on plot where we all went to a thrift store all together, and it was wonderful.
Scarves.
Yep, let's
Do not underestimate the power of scarves. They are cheap. You can tie them on a belt, and they make you look fabulous. Layering up things is key to make you look fancier than you actually might feel, but it's really helpful.
Yep.
I have 3 different scarves and 3 different belts. Belts and scarves.
Oh yeah, I wear like 3 belts on my kit.
Yeah.
They're all thrifted.
More belts, more power.
More belts, more power.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I think layering is important, and color combinations help too, making sure that you have at least a few different types of colors in a motif that go well together. Let's take a little segue for a moment, because I know that we have a bunch of veteran LARPers up on stage right now, and you here, who have a variety of different proficiencies when it comes to LARP crafting. And LARP crafting is many things. It's not just costuming. Some of it's props, some of it's effects, special effects. So let's just go around and just talk about what it is that you specialize in. Tell us a little bit about yourself as a crafter. What do you make? Do you do costumes? Do you do props? And what are some of your favorite things that you've ever made as a crafter?
So I specialize in props, like LARP safe props. There's a difference between regular props and LARP safe props, because LARP props you have to go through rigorous safety tests and stuff like that. One of my favorite props was a sword that had all the elements on it. So one side was fire and the other side was water, and then down the middle was wind, and then there was electricity coming off the hilt, and then the handle was made of wood, and then the pommel was made of stone, and it had a chaos symbol with a law attached to it on one side, and then light and dark on the others. It was we called it Oops All Elements. It was a wonderful prop. I am horrible with a sewing machine. My friends, that's that side of the table. I touch a sewing machine and it explodes. But yeah, that's my specialty is props.
I do a little bit of everything from ADHD. So I originally started actually in theater makeup and being a professional makeup artist, and that's really one of the main things I would say that given enough time I can do some really cool stuff with that. But I made the antlers and I made this cauldron. I'm learning chainmail. I made a really cool bone halo thing. I do latex armor stuff. I have a lot of random hobbies. Pretty much I want to make something like that, and I just kind of learn to do it. But that means I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. But I don't sew. Sewing and me don't get along either.
I actually don't have sewing machine. I can sew everything.
Yeah.
I just finished a EVA film armor piece that I really like. Hopefully, I'll get to throw it in the contest tomorrow. But
Nice.
Other than that, yeah, just winging.
Yeah.
Just winging.
Yeah.
I do a lot of sewing. Sewing is about maybe 80% of the stuff that I do. I'm cheap and creative, so usually if I see something on the internet that I think is really overpriced, I'll figure out how they did it, and then I'll make something similar that is the cost of materials versus I don't know, $500.
Yep.
But yeah, I typically specialize in fabric costuming and jewelry making. I make jewelry pieces for some things for art too.
And Sam, you also do makeup tutorial videos, is that right?
Yeah, when I was in school last year and the year before, I was doing a makeup and Middle Earth Monday thing where I did a LARP makeup look and talked about a Tolkien topic for an hour and a half, and it was something that was I could look forward to doing when I got home in between going to class and going to work. Right now I'm mainly doing render videos though, because they're a little bit easier to do. More sustainable.
Yeah, I think when it comes to LARP costuming too, another thing that people can invest into, it's not even all that expensive, is makeup and and little prostheses, things like gnome ears and elf ears and all that kind of stuff. Not too expensive, but it really helps make your look pop a lot. Let's talk a little bit about makeup. So all of you have done makeup characters that have had very intricate makeup designs, and some that were a little more subtle and subdued. How, when you come up with an idea for a character, where does your inspiration come for your design? Does it start with sort of the image? Do you start with the character and then build from there and then come up with how, like, what race it's going to be, what prosthetics you're going to use, what sort of makeup scheme you want to do?
I usually start, and I know this sounds weird, but I usually start from the waist because I want to be able to carry things. I like to be able to make sure I have my water bottle on me, certain items that are, that just make me feel comfortable when I'm at a LARP, because it can get hot or cold. And then I try and go for, I like black. I like the color black, so I usually do accents of some other color with a ton of black. But I will find, like, a statement piece. Like, with my tiefling at Vanguard, it's my my hood and my brigandine. And I try and find things that match that. The belts are always the same. Like I said, comfortable shoes. I don't care what the shoes look like. And I try and make them aesthetically pleasing. But a lot of, shoes can get expensive, especially like really, really good ones. But if the shoes are comfortable, I can feel like I can do anything else. I usually work from comfort and then put aesthetic on top of it.
I am the opposite. I work from aesthetic and I'm usually not comfortable. But that's okay, because I think that's like a good dichotomy to have, because, we live for the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Usually I start from story. So, like, especially with being on plot, there's usually a, hey, we need this thing, here's what it's going to do, and then I go from there. That's actually where these horns came from originally. They were for an NPC from season 1. And so that's kind of where I start. What's the story? What's the need? And then I'm like, how can I make it safe if I've got to make something for it? Because these can't be actual antlers because they could stab somebody, and that's bad.
Yeah.
So these are literally like aluminum foil wire and some foam.
Wait, stabbing people is bad?
Yes.
Stop
Stabbing people.
Get out of play. In play, that's fine.
Okay.
So yeah, I usually start from story, and then I want to look a certain way, and then I figure out the comfort if I can. But the shoes, they're the non-negotiables. Me and Dr. Scholl's inserts.
It's very important to keep your feet.
I'm almost the same way as Courtney. I'll do anything from grip as long as I look good. But when it comes to like my characters, my 2 favorite characters have been from D&D. So it's pretty easy for me to just jump in and go, okay, this character wears this character wears that, and then build up on their already formed aesthetic in the D&D world. And with Vanguard, it's pretty easy because Vanguard has a lot of the D&D races, and even though it's like steampunk, it's a totally different setting. It's just it makes sense. Yeah.
We all have had a tiefling at Vanguard.
Yeah, all 4 of us on this table play tiefling. If I was my tiefling, I would be the red one, so we would all be
We have all different colors.
Yeah,
Blue,
like a pink.
pink, purple, red.
red. Yes.
We didn't have that at all.
So, one of the most wonderful things in my mind about LARP costuming is that, unlike cosplay, where, and don't get me wrong, I love cosplay, not taking the dump on cosplay, but with cosplay, you're representing something that already exists. Somebody else came up with an idea, and that's what you're portraying. Whereas in LARP, you're coming up with it. It's your ideas, your creativity, and then you put that into reality. Now, with that, there's oftentimes going to be some challenges. What are some of the challenges that you feel that you experience when trying to put together the kits that you can imagine, the characters that you want to play again?
For LARP, durability is an issue because, like, you can make something really cool, and for cosplay it's fine, but if you bring it out into the woods and it's not sturdy, it's gonna get broken. Like, so I make a lot of my own stuff for that reason also, because like if I want it to look a certain way, I would rather I make it so that if it gets broken, I know how to fix it. But yeah, for LARP, it's like a whole different world of like figuring out how to make a kit that can stand up. Like if it rains, if it snows, if it's really hot out and you have glue that melts in the hot weather. Yeah, I've definitely learned to make things a lot more durable since we started going to LARP.
Yeah, it's easy to make cosplay armor because no one's going to be looking at it that closely, but then it's totally different to make LARP armor.
If somebody's hitting you with wacky bats, yeah.
I mean, honestly, that is one of the biggest challenges. Making it safe and making it durable and making it comfortable enough that you can be active in it. Because, like, yeah, like this is cool. I'm not doing anything in that thing. I'm sitting in it. So, yeah, it's durability and there is a certain level of, like, function to it. It has to be able to stand you moving in it.
Yeah, I would also say safety is one of the biggest things coming from a prop maker. That's my number one concern. Is making sure that I do want to have my aesthetic, but like Courtney with your horns, it is a little bit of a safety issue because people are going to be bouncing around. Sometimes you're going to be in a tight knit group and you're going to be fighting in a close certain area. So you want to make sure that your presence doesn't negatively affect or injure anybody around you because then that's a bad time for everybody.
Yeah.
Safety, yeah, that's a big thing for me.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about this idea of safety, because I heard many of you have brought it up. What are some considerations that you have to take into account when you're designing your costumes to make sure that they're functional, look good, but also safe for play?
Pointy.
Is it pointy?
Is it pointy? We're all playing same planes. Yep.
Will it break or will the person it's stabbing break?
Yep. Am I putting in enough? Is the effort or money that I'm putting into this item worth the durability or the fragility? Thank you. Of the item, like, because we're talking about being on a budget, But if you do want to buy this big, beautiful, gaudy piece, is it really worth it?
It would break if someone actually taps me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it matters so much because the last thing you want to do after you've invested so much of your own time and energy and creativity is bring something in and have it get destroyed, have it break the first time you use it, or have somebody, through no harmful intent of their own, take a LARP safe weapon, smack you with it, and then because it doesn't have structural integrity, have it fall apart. So there's always that balance there between like, how do you make something sturdy enough to uphold, the forces versus how do I make sure that it's safe and not going to hurt other people? Definitely a difficult line to balance sometimes. All right, let's shift gears and do a little bit of story time, okay? So we're going to do a little show and tell, or just tell, I guess, unless you have it on you. I want you all to share with me one of your favorite, could be your most impressive, most challenging, or whatever it is to you, one of your favorite LARP costumes that you have made, and tell us a little bit about the process behind making it.
The thing I'm going to wear tomorrow.
Ooh.
Tell us about it.
It's actually for this character. She's an NPC. She's a villain. So I made it's very Oron the Red inspired from Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm excited for it.
My thing would have been an undead Draco Lich named Whisper, and that thing was 7 feet tall. It was an undead dragon. 2 people had to control it, and I had to make somebody that made it was no longer able to finish it for the LARP that I used to play like 10 years ago. I had to figure out how this person made it, and then repair it, add on to it, it was literally 7 feet tall, and all of town beat the crap out of it. Thankfully, I did repairs to it and turned it into an EVA system, so the EVA foam is a little bit more squishy, and town still destroyed it. But thankfully, I spent like $40 on the materials for it, so I was like, whatever. So that's my big thing.
Let me ask real quick before we move to our next person. You said it was 7 feet tall.
It was
How did that work? Like, what was the rig like?
So it was a like wire system that would go over someone's head, and it was almost like a puppeteering type thing where you would put it on and it would sit on their shoulders, and there was pads, and coming off the shoulders was a metal grate that was made out of wire coat hangers, and on top of those wire coat hangers there was foam pieces that looked like skeleton, like part of the skeletal head, the spine, the wings came off of it, the ribs wrapped around the person that was holding it, and then there was a second person behind them that also had, excuse me, that also had a a wire system that had the back legs that kind of came down around them, and they could, move around and wiggle the tail, and the tail kind of scraped across the ground. It was like a two-person Draco Lich cave. Yes.
Kind of like those tigers and dragons that you see in
Yes.
Chinese parades.
Yes, exactly. Like that's where we got the idea from, actually.
That is so cool. That's the kind of stuff that like you only ever see at a LARP. Because like, I mean, you can see stuff like that at cons, but you know what I mean. Like, when else are you going to see two people in like a 7-foot-tall, two-person Draco Lich costume?
It was so much fun.
Very awesome. Very cool. All right, Sam or Courtney. Most impressive, coolest costume.
I think mine was probably what I competed in the costume contest with last year.
Yes.
I made, it was a kit for was a PC, now it's an NPC, Tiefling Lich. She had a halo of bones around her back that was me.
Yeah.
So the bones, and then she had horns that I had made.
And she tried to enter into the novice.
I had never
She tried
competed before.
They bumped her to the master. I was like, yeah, honey. We were all like, no.
It was a lot. I was very overstimulated.
That's
It was,
valid.
it was super fun. But yeah, I had made armor, an armor corset, bra, belt, just a bunch of stuff. It was really cool, and it's gotten a lot of wear. It has gotten a lot of wear at game too. But yeah, that was my favorite thing I've made.
And I feel sorry, you said not to cut you off, but I do
Sorry.
that was a costume that, as you mentioned, was debuted at Con Carolinas, and correct me if I'm wrong, was a costume contest championship?
I won in the master category. Praise well.
Continue.
I think probably like the most impressive for me that I wore was probably the Demon Lord kit
Oh yes.
that I made for the field battle of like this past December at Vanguard. I had like a coat that I had made. It was like I have not seen the fabric since, but it was like a metallic like gold with like a black lace like overlay, and it was like I don't know, it was like something Thranduil would wear, I guess. And I ended up making I had a mask. I ended up making EVA armor for it, and then I did jewelry on the armor so that there was like gold chains and stuff on it, and then I ended up making wings out of EVA because I wanted them to be safe if they whacked somebody while I was in the middle of the field battle. But I had them in like a case like on my back so they could move. So they kind of like would swish and like move around depending on how I moved. And that was probably the most impressive thing of it.
How did you do that? How did you make the case for these?
So I used Warblood and I triple layered it because one layer of Warblood is not that great. And I made I had these PVC tubes that I sawed off, and then I had them in the Warblood, and I put more Warblood around them, and then used some screws to hold it together. And then so the wing was you have the wing shape, and then it had a metal piece that would fit into the PVC housing, so that they would just kind of move on their own. Yeah.
Nice.
It is super cool, and having seen the costume, it was incredibly impressive. Very good, very much top tier, very cool. Was a fabulous presence on that field battle. And for those of you that aren't familiar with LARP, a field battle is the culminating big battle of an event. You go there for a couple days, then at the very end, there's just this big attack. The villain of the event comes down, and you have to all fight them together. Or it can be a little different than that, but that's kind of the idea. All right, so we've talked a lot about the costuming side of things. I want to shift gears to some of the other aspects that create the immersive environment of LARP. So other than costuming, what else helps create an immersive atmosphere or ambiance at a LARP?
Having feastware and cups that look genre and not solo cups.
Yep, I was just about to say that as well. Yeah, solo cups ruin it, kill it.
So the Ghost and Monster are what sponsors Vanguard LARP and a lot of our photos. They have to be edited out.
Yep. Decor as well. Like, I'm a big fan of like mood lighting. The candles that look like fake candles, but they're battery powered and they have to flicker. It's perfect. Alchemy labs, stuff that looks like if you touched it, like at a video game or something like that, if you touched it, it would poison you. Love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a few of the players at Vanguard have some really cool like crafting stations that they've made. So like one of our players has like a carpentry station that he made. So like he brings like a saw, he brings like woodworking tools. So when there's off time like between mods, he'll just work on carpentry stuff that is really cool.
Not actual carpentry tools, but like.
Oh no! He brought some.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he brought some.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been to Vanguard in a while. I'm sorry. Don't yell at me.
It's new.
Oh, nice.
Another thing is covering up your camp chair.
Yes.
I know that seems like such a little detail, but it really is the little details that I think make it. So like we all have very comfortable camp chairs because you need a good place to put your butt. So putting a fabric cover over it that looks like a fur, or even just like a nice piece of fabric that just looks like it's in play helps a lot too, especially for pictures.
Yeah. So along those lines, I mean, pretty much everything, maybe other than the chair, that you described could be described as a prop, right? Props are incredibly important. They're good to have for making an immersive environment. They're good to have as like character accents and pieces, based depending on what sort of character you're trying to play. Earlier, I asked you to tell me a little bit about the most impressive costume you ever made and the process behind creating that. Now I'd like you to tell me a little bit about the most impressive prop. So an object or article that your character maybe held or something that you used to enhance the environment of a game. What's the most impressive prop you've made? And tell me a little bit about what went into the process of making it.
You made the most impressive.
I do. I make. So I've got a couple. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I made a prop that was like the Oops All Metal sword. That's not mine. My most impressive prop that I ever made for like my character was an alchemy lab that had literally like, it had lavender in it, it had wormswort, it had frankincense, it had all these, and I made sure to like glue the bottles closed so that there's no like,
oopsies.
Yeah, no oopsies, but it had like a spoon for like divination, like putting out the herbs. It had stones for like rune casting. It's this, and it's travel size. It's only like this big, but I put my heart and soul into it. And like all the other props that I made so many props. I made a shield the size of myself. I made the whisper, the Draco Lich. But my favorite, my thing that's most impressive is when I actually take part of my heart and soul and put it in. And I'm a druid in real life, and so like I really like it. It's my favorite.
I think mine, I made a bunch of books for a mod that was really near and dear to my heart. I made 15 books, and they were handwritten, and I did art on the covers, did some wax seals on them, but like a lot of them told stories that were really world building. They built on some of the lore of the different seraphim from the game. Also some pretty sketchy necromancy stuff. But one of them was actually a journal from my PC talking about her transition from one plane to this one, but also outlines some key things that the players need to know in order to try to help her. So I really like props that have that kind of intentionality, that if you sit with it and you really read it or you interact with it a lot beyond just one mod, you're going to get more out of it. So I think that they were really cheap little books I got off of Amazon, but I just put a lot of time in them, and that made them special.
I made a couple props for like a mod chain that got introduced at the beginning of this season. One of them was like it looks like a computer tower, but it's made out of like foam board, and it's just spray painted, like painted to look like it's welded together, and that was fun to make. I ended up buying like a couple calculators and some like buttons from the first store, and then like gluing them on and putting some EL wire in it to make it light up. That was fun. It didn't like the winter weather though, so like some of the hot glue wasn't super heavy and cold. But that was fun. And then a couple months ago, I made like a gem out of like acrylic board. So like you cut it in like a certain shape and you break it off to be that shape, and then glue it together. I like heat gun cellophane over the top of it, and then I put more cellophane on the inside of it to diffuse the light that I put some like LEDs inside of it to make it glow, and then I just glued it all on top of like a paper plate and covered it in coffee grounds to make it look like dirt.
I also want to call out the baby.
Oh, the baby.
The baby.
Oh, the tiefling baby.
The tiefling
Yeah.
baby.
I made a tiefling baby for last month because we had a mod that was we need to rescue this mother and child from the horrors of the swamp. And so I bought a baby doll off of Amazon and then just like put it in a dye bath and dyed it blue. And then I like airbrushed like some details and blushing on so it looked like a baby, and then I glued some horns on it. I made the horns out of Sculpey.
Little
Amazing.
They're so cute.
You had it wrapped in like a blanket too. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Swaddled teeth.
And you know what? I'm so jealous because all I get to make is a human baby, and it's taking way longer, I'm guessing, than the tiefling baby took.
That's yeah, for sure.
Sorry, my veteran actress here reminded me that it's not like I'm doing much of the work. So that's
This is
there's
true.
that, yeah. We'll burn. Moving right along, back to LARP props.
On that.
So prop work is impressive, and I've seen some of the work that you all can do, and it is incredible, right? But if I'm somebody who's completely new, and I've never made a prop in my life, it'd be very easy to take a look at some of this craftsmanship and feel a little intimidated. What are some tips that you could give for somebody who's completely new to making props for LARP? Like, what are some things that they could do to kind of, I guess, get into it, like baby steps, you know, in the shallow end of the pool? And then, what could they do to improve? Like, what are some resources they could look into to enhance their craft?
Weathering.
Yeah.
Ooh, yes.
If you're painting something, and like it's the easiest thing in the world to do. So if you're making a prop or you're making a piece and you're painting it, what you do once like it's actually painted is you take some like black acrylic paint and you rub it all over it, get it in creases, and then you rub it all off.
Yep.
And it makes it look like it's aged. It looks like it's lived in, and like it can like if you're bad at painting, it can save a bad paint job. I'll
Oh
say
yeah.
that for
It
sure.
can also cover up like a lot of mistakes.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like if you do make a mistake in the foam, just make more mistakes.
Put
It'll
your
just
own
affect the
way.
image. Yep.
Yeah. Weathering really is what brings it together.
I would suggest as a first time prop maker, make something that's the size of your hand. Because then that's not a lot of material. You're not gonna waste a lot of money, you're not gonna waste a lot of time. A little shanking dagger, a spoon, a knife.
And it is pretty cost effective to make your own stuff. Like you literally can go to Walmart and get like a blue camp mat from the camping section. Get like one of those like fiberglass things that you stick at the end of your driveway, saw off part of it, and then you like sandwich it between like a few layers of the camp mat, and there you go. I use contact cement, so you can use I use weldwood, but some people
Please use a respirator.
yeah, use a respirator.
Please.
Please
Oh,
use
God.
personal protective equipment.
Yeah. As someone that promotes, like I make props, I make videos on TikTok and YouTube to show people how to make it. There's plenty of other amazing prop makers, Evil Ted, Kamui Cosplay. There's so many resources online. It's insane. But the biggest thing is safety when you're making these props, because even if you're just sanding foam, that stuff can get in your lungs.
It will.
Yep.
It gets everywhere.
It gets
You'll
everywhere.
find it years later.
Yep. And some of the chemicals can cause cancer and all that other stuff. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but yeah, safety
But
once
wear a
again.
respirator.
Yes,
But wear
please. But yeah, and the resources, like I said, you can find tons of people online.
Yeah, some
What's that?
One of the cosplay panels we had, someone mentioned that advent of like the 3D camera or 3D printers and
Yep.
stuff.
Yeah.
Does that have an impact in your world?
They're
or-
nice.
Literally.
These
yes.
are 3D printed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's a lot of stuff that I love making that's 3D printed, and also some of the, you can 3D print something and make a mold of it. My husband makes his own 3D vector file. Like, I don't know what. I'm sorry. I'm probably
It's
butchering
gotta
this.
save money though, right? I mean,
It can. It
the
depends.
initial investment's expensive. But
Oh yeah.
You just
Um,
have to find somebody who has a 3D printer.
Like
Yeah.
the local library might have one. I know where we live, several libraries have 3D printers open to the public for them to use.
yeah, there's workshops.
Maker spaces. They're just really time consuming. That's the one thing about 3D printing is that
It's a long time.
it does take a long time, and if they mess up, you're still
Gotta
paying for
start.
filament, so
The film is expensive.
it can be. I mean, it's really. I think it's worth it, especially if you are somebody who doesn't like have that natural artistic kind of ability. That's okay. But the other thing about 3D printers though is a lot of times, a lot of filament can be brittle.
Yeah.
And it's hard, so you have to be careful because like these horns, if you hit them and somebody falls into them, they're just gonna crumble and break, and that's okay because the person is not gonna get stabbed.
Yes.
These are very, very flexible. Those are not.
No.
So
But mind
now
you, these are smaller and
Exactly.
like you gotta get in real close.
you'd have to be in the no-no zone.
Yeah.
So like it's different, but I think if you're making something huge with them, like you have to be careful.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the durability. Like it's a durability issue. It's different than cosplay. Cosplay is completely fine.
Yeah, whatever.
But
Durability
LARP
doesn't
is
matter.
different because somebody's gonna hit it with a heavy axe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. Let's talk. So we talked about costuming. We talked about props. Let's talk a little bit about like scenery and special effects. There's so much involved in LARP. You have to have costumes. You have to have characters that look like they fit in the atmosphere. Props. You have things, objects that people interact with that are setting appropriate. And then mood, the setting itself. What are some examples you've seen of like some really cool things either done with like lighting effects, set pieces, maybe some things that you yourself have done or that you've experienced in other LARPs that people can do with their games to try to really make them feel alive and vibrant?
There's two things that come to mind when I think of that. One time, one of the players in the Vanguard, he was fighting another. It was either, I don't remember like who he was fighting, but I know he was fighting either another player or an NPC, and he just pulled out fake blood from his pocket
Yeah.
and started spraying everywhere on him, like where he was hit, and then he wandered back into camp and he was blood gas, and I thought that was great. And then another was one of our other pod members. She made a alchemy table.
That was so good.
Yeah, it was really fun because like someone was under the table and was this big hand that like they interacted with and would mix the components that they provided the hand at the table. So that was a lot of fun.
Sometimes one of my favorite things is like you can take the simplest, cheapest things. Like last event, we introduced a new species of like monster called a Seagrin, and they look kind of like kappas, but they are not kappas. They're what happens when a child's toy floats out to sea and washes back up and comes back as this weird little gremlin creature. But it was literally a Dollar Tree bucket on someone's head and some felt that was hot glued to look like a little beak and a little crown, and it was ridiculous. But pickles. They love pickles. And so I got a $1 jar of pickles, and I've never, this person on Monster Shift committed and ate 3 little pickles and just ate them so loud. Like, I mean, you would think that this pickle was, I wanted a pickle afterwards. It was very, like, it was a lot. So a lot of the times, the special effects are just sometimes people really committing and just doing their thing. That was great.
And this was a player. This was not
It was a
staff
player,
member.
it's not staff, which made it even all the more better.
There's been a LARP that I went to years ago that would have so around Halloween, there's All Hallows. It's my favorite, almost everybody's favorite event, but it's usually very like high combat, and we want to, like, a lot of LARPs are now transferring to like non-combat situations, and they made a haunted house, and it was really nice. And they had like smoke machine. Now they gave everybody a warning. They said like, hey, if you have asthma, you should definitely not do this. If you are epileptic, you should definitely not do this. This is a giant trigger warning area. But they had lights, they had smoke going on, and I know my description is kind of horrible, but like in the pitch black darkness, you're walking down a trail and you just hear, and they also had like music going on.
Oh, music is huge.
Yeah, but like once again, it's a big trigger thing for some people, so they were like, hey, use discretion. But it was genuine. I used to be a haunted actor, and I was genuinely like in play. Like there was a reason why we were going to this haunted house, and I was absolutely terrified. And I don't get scared at haunted houses. It was nice.
Creepy cloth. Creepy cloth is my crutch. It's really cheap. Like, you got a table that needs to be covered, creepy cloth. You got some gaps in like a monster kit, creepy cloth. You want to look creepy, creepy cloth. You want a mask that you can see through, creepy cloth. Like I
It's like cheesecloth.
It is cheesecloth. Yep. You can get it for like $1 after all the Halloween stuff goes. I get it every time at the end of Halloween. I go to Walmart at the day after Halloween and just buy all the creepy cloth.
Halloween clearance is
A LARPer's
a
dream.
LARPer's happiest time.
Spirit Halloween.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, it's a great way to save money. And even if you're like, you might go there and see something that looks maybe a little corny due to its paint job, you can take that, use it as a base, repaint it. I've done that before. In fact, I played a Lich Lord, the Pale Lord, whose face was a base skeleton mask that I got at Walmart, and then I just went ahead and painted it and made it look unique. And to the point where I don't think anybody would have expected that thing came from Walmart.
Nope.
But that's a way to do it and save some money.
That's the thing too. Like, you can get something that's kind of ugly. A good paint job can save an ugly product.
Yep. Heartbeat.
Yeah. Like, if it's ugly and you paint it and it looks good, you can save something ugly with a paint job.
And do you have to be great at painting in order to get good at painting LARP props?
Dry brushing is your best friend.
Yes.
Paint it black, grab a really old crappy paintbrush, and jam it into a slightly lighter color and layer it up. Like, you just have to dry brush. If you do that, you can make anything look good. You just capitalize on the texture.
Or a black wash, like Sam was saying earlier.
That's it.
Yep, weathering. Yep. Heartbeat. And the, like we said earlier, the more gritty it looks, the better.
Very nice. So let's do, you know what? LARP is all about roleplay, right? So let's do a little bit of roleplay real quick, okay? Pretend I'm not Nick Barone, I haven't been LARPing for years and years. I'm Johnny Dingledore, and I'm new to LARP. I've never LARPed before in my life. I'm intimidated about it. I'm afraid that my kit's gonna suck. Everybody's gonna judge me. Everybody's gonna hate me. What should I do? What would you tell me to do as some first steps to start getting my kit together? And how would you inspire me to continue forward on this journey towards maybe eventually going into some higher end props?
Join the Discord.
Yeah, there are usually a lot of veteran players who are more than happy to lend stuff to new people until like the new people can figure out what they want. But also the important thing to remember is like everybody was a new LARPer at some point.
Yes.
So like if you show up and you're just like wearing a tunic and like some sweatpants, like and you're like, hey, I've never LARPed before, people will be understanding. Like they're not gonna hopefully if they're needy,
If it's a good
shouldn't
LARP.
If it's a good LARP.
It's a good LARP.
But yeah, like if you're like, cause this isn't costume related. I'm bad at math. I'm terrible at math. I'm bad at like rules. I think I've read the Vanguard rulebook 5 or 6 times, and I just don't retain a lot of information. If you're up front and you're like, hey, so this is the issue I'm having, can you clarify this? Like people will be more than happy to like clarify stuff for you. Like, especially if you're talking to like a rules marshal, and if they're not nice to you, then
You need to tell somebody.
you need to tell
Yes.
somebody.
Yeah. LARP is all about community.
Yeah.
LARP is all about community. Going off of Sam's idea, I would also be like, hey, what is your favorite thing to do in D&D? What is your favorite thing to do in Skyrim? What's your favorite thing to do in Magic the Gathering? Something in the same kind of vein as LARPing. So, and then you tell them, okay, well, I like to be a sorcerer. Oh, okay, well, I have friends that are sorcerers, you know, and I'm going to get you in touch with them so that they can help you with the spell casting or the verbals or you know, whatever you need to know for that. That's another thing is like finding, if you were having trouble learning the rules, I would find somebody that was, I don't want to say rules lawyer, but that's what it is, you know, the person that specializes in rules, because just like Sam, I also have trouble retaining the rules, and I make sure that that's well known. So that's another thing is connecting people that are, you know, that are like-minded.
I mean, we love this. We love what we do. We love LARP. And I mean, for me, my primary thing is like, I'm like, one of us.
One of us.
Like, I want other people to get into doing it because it's such a fun thing. So, you know, I'm really big on, can we talk to people? Can we help them get connected with other people? Can we help them get connected with things? Like, I will give you things if I find out that I have something that you can use, I'm probably going to give it to you. Like, hey, yeah, oh, you need this cloth? Here's some creepy cloth that fixes everything. So for me, I think a lot of us, we just want to make it accessible for people because it doesn't have to be. My first LARP kit was a dress from Amazon.
Yep.
Like, and I'm a crafter, but I still was not sure about this because like, I don't know if I'm going to like it or not. So it's sharing the fact that we've all been there and that we're excited you're here.
Yeah. Most LARPers are very excited to have more LARPers join.
Also, I mean, one would hope most games have like a new player liaison role.
Yes.
Like, I think our game has 2 or 3. So, like, if you're new and you really don't know anything, you can talk to the new player liaison because their job is literally to make it easier for you to integrate into the game.
It's true. And I found that if the community is good, well, first off, if you're going to go in and you're new and people are being dismissive of you, that's probably a sign that the community is not there.
Yeah.
If the community is good, you should be able to approach people, and like 9 out of 10 are going to be just like spot on, supportive, and help you out. But I digress. So sometimes I think when we think about the aesthetic side of LARP, people like to think about aesthetics as one thing and story as another. But a lot of times these two, well, they should be interplaying together, right? Your aesthetics are showing the world that is imagined through the story and so on and so forth. And also sometimes the aesthetics themselves are impacted by certain things that happen with the story of the game. I'd like if you're so willing, to tell me a story about some time when your aesthetic appearance for a character you're playing, either a PC or an NPC, was impacted by events that were occurring in the story.
Oh, I got it. Can I?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So, like I said in the last panel, I probably didn't say it here. I'm an edgelord. I like playing morally questionable, evil-ish characters. And most of the time, my character likes to walk around by themselves. Completely by themselves. Like, not a lot of people do that, but I like to do that because I like to purposely scare people. My character is bright red, contacts, horns, the whole 9 yards. I wouldn't want to see me walking through the woods at night. And there was a group, I still actually don't know what they were doing, but it looked like one group of people and another group of people had gotten into a fight and they had jumped each other. And they were, you know, trying to be sneaky and dragging off their victims and like looting them and taking their stuff. And I was just like, I didn't even see them. I was just walking down the path. And they saw me, I saw them at the same time, and they just looked at me and they said, run. And so all these people start running and there's all these bodies on the ground, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this stuff now. And I had somebody come up to me later during the day and they were like, hey, were you out last night? Did you see that happen? And I was like, yeah, that was me. And they were like, oh my god, you scared the crap out of us. I was like, well, that's one moment, but I have a couple more, but we're not gonna do it.
I had a pretty direct one that I'm sure you know about because you were there. So when I was transitioning, so after season 1 of Vanguard, I transitioned from being a player to being on the plot we needed to do something with my character, and based on some things that had happened with the story, she underwent a birthday party that was actually a ritual to make her a lich. And during that, a Reaper, Sam, in Creepy Claw, with his fingers, dragged me off to die as a part of the ritual, which really was just me screaming and taking out purple contacts and putting in bright white ones. So in the span of just a couple minutes, I went from a purple-skinned tiefling with purple eyes to a purple-skinned tiefling that was gradually going to get paler with white, very scary contacts. So that was like an immediate aesthetic change that was a result of something that happened in play that people asked about. Like, if your character looks different, even if it's not on purpose, they're going to be like, hey, what's up with that? And I'm like, it's fine, it happens when tieflings turn a certain age.
Yep.
I haven't had it happen at Vanguard yet, but at another LARP we went to, my half-orc character touched a cursed object, and the next game I painted my hand black so it looked like it was burnt, and everyone was like, what's up? What's going on? Why is that happening? Like, oh, don't worry about it right now, but the plot team told me, oh yeah, you're cursed now. I'm like, okay, cool. So I wanted to make it look like something wrong was happening.
And then COVID happened.
And then COVID happened.
Never got to go back.
Oh, that's rough. That is good general LARP advice. If you go to a game, pick up every object and read every book. It's gonna be great. You're gonna have so much fun.
Nothing will be cursed.
No.
Everything will be cursed.
Nothing bad could happen.
What about you, Sam?
Yeah, Sam.
Gosh, aesthetically, I don't know. Aesthetically, I don't know. Plot-wise, like, I was talking about the Demon Lord with the wings. That was, like, the culmination of, like, a whole plot that was going on for, I think, most of last season. And, afterwards, like, they killed this Demon Lord, and there was, like, a power vacuum, left behind, and so, since, like, that all happened, my thing is, like, you have players make decisions, you want to have the world kind of react to those decisions. So after they killed this Demon Lord, I was like, well, this Demon Lord had all these tieflings that were basically living under a tyrant. They would probably leave, so now we have plot lines based on, like, tiefling refugees coming from, the Inferno, basically, to look for a better life. That's actually where this character came from, because they wanted to have something to kind of bridge that plot line with the players.
I have another one. So I wanted to let everybody else have their turn.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
But at another LARP that I play, I played in a Sylvan Fae, and I decided as the Sylvan Fae to start messing with this Lich item, and in response, I took the Lich item, and in response, the Lich actually came and, like, apparently messed with my horn. So I have one crooked horn and one straight horn, and then she started turning unseelie, and I got to have all these black lines. It was very aesthetic. I wanted to find a way to naturally race change to an unseelie Fae. So, like, plot set that up. It was really nice. It was just like a one-off thing. Like, it was just like a private little plot thing. I thought that it was really nice, and I just love the one crooked horn and the one straight horn. I have a whole plot line for it. It's really nice.
I feel you. I personally, I had an experience too. My very first LARP, in my very first event, I came to the game and I was all dressed up as like an elf ranger, like full Legolas style. And then I got this item drop that was the helm of the helm of the Death Knight. And then I was like, okay, well now I'm necromantic, and from here on out, everything I get for this character is going to be like skulls and black and spikes and all that fun. So yeah, it definitely can happen, where you think you're going to be one thing, and then the story takes you in a completely different direction. Well, we are approaching the end of our time, so I want to thank all of our lovely guests for all of their input. I've been LARPing with these people for years. They're incredible. Their talents are impressive, as you can see for you. And thank you to the audience for participating. I hope you learned something about LARP, LARP costuming. You can also, I mean, I'm not there right now. I wish we could be in person, but I encourage you to hit these wonderful people up throughout the convention if you have any questions about them or if you're at all interested in getting into LARP. They're wonderful resources. I am Nick. I encourage you to visit Vanguard. I also encourage you to watch CCTV. And I'm sending my love to you all. I hope that you enjoy the rest of this convention. I wish I could be with you, but it's possible that maybe might come during this convention, so we'll see.